this show on the road. So as I said, I'm Dr. Bill Auxier. Welcome to our webinar today. The title of our webinar is Leadership Resilience, What Top Leaders Need Now. You know, Elise and I were talking earlier this year with all the stuff that's going on. We thought that one way we could serve rural health leaders is by putting on a monthly webinar. We wanted to keep it to just 30 minutes long, but hopefully provide a leadership nugget, if you will, of value to deliver some value to you. And thank you for all your hard work that you're doing in rural healthcare. So we thought the timing was perfect with everything going on in the world. A conversation about leadership resilience and what top leaders need now seemed appropriate. So let's dive right in. Oops. So leadership resilience, what I want to talk with you about today is what is it, why is it important, and what do top leaders need now? So when we talk about leadership resilience, I believe that leadership resilience is one of the most important qualities of a leader. It shows a leader's true grit. And when I say true grit, I mean leadership resilience doesn't show up when it's good times, right? Leadership grit, leadership resilience shows up in difficult times like a pandemic. When the going gets tough, a resilient leader is able to show their emotional strength, their professionalism, their courage under fire, if you will. And not only that, it's once the tough times subside, it's how you as a leader bounce back. And when I say bounce back, if we imagine a bouncing ball, we want you to bounce back higher than you were before. So in other words, when you bounce back, you're better than before. So why is that important? Well, when courage under fire, if you will, lets everyone know that, hey, everything's going to be okay. We're going to make it through this. But more than that, it sends a message. Your behavior as a resilient leader sends a message that, you know, not only are we going to survive this, we're going to come back bigger and better than ever. It's all about making the new normal as we recover from this pandemic and other things going on in the world. And when we come back, the new normal is going to be better than the old normal. It's not about just surviving, it's about thriving as leaders and organizations, and it all stops at the top. So this is not what I want to talk about today, but I do want to ask you a few questions about this today, because I'm guessing everybody here has seen something like this, that, you know, as a leader, as a human being, you know, you have to take care of 5 areas of your life. You have to take care of your physical needs, your social needs, your mental needs, spiritual and emotional. And I'd like for you to give yourself a score between 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being excellent, on how you score yourself with physical self-care. When I say physical self-care, what I'm talking about is, you know, are you exercising? Are you eating right? Are you sleeping well? What score would you give yourself on your physical self-care between 1 and 10? If you could just write that down. And then social self-care. When I say social self-care, I'm talking about building relationships with others. I'm talking about face-to-face interactions, building healthy relationships with others. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has definitely had an impact on that with social distancing and everything. So how do you score yourself on your social self-care during these current times, between a score of 1 and 10, 1 being very low, 10 being excellent? What score would you give yourself? And then mental self-care. Mental self-care, when I say that, what I'm talking about is, what are you doing to take care of yourself and your mental health? You know, for some people, it's reading a good book. For others, it's doing puzzles or watching movies. You know, it's any proactive thing that you're doing to take care of your mental health. So what score would you give yourself on mental self-care between us on a scale of 1 to 10? And then the spiritual self-care. And when I say spiritual self-care, of course, you know, religion falls into that, but it doesn't have to be about religion. It's more about having a deeper sense of meaning, connecting to the universe, uh, that sort of thing. So, what score would you give yourself between 1 and 10 on your spiritual self care? And then finally, emotional self care. When I talk about emotional self care, how are you coping? I mean, how are you handling anger? How are you handling frustration? How are you handling stress? Are you able to express your feelings? Do you have the tools that you need to express your emotions in a positive way? Uh, we've had a lot of strain in that arena. So give yourself a score between 1 and 10. What is a score you would give yourself for emotional self-care? So now you should have given if you've gone along with me here, you should have 5 different scores that you're giving yourself. So now I'm going to ask you, I'm going to take a poll and I'm going to ask you to share your overall score that you would give yourself between a scale of 1 to 10. So here's the poll. You just click on one number. What score overall would you give yourself on self-care? So we still have people voting. I'm going to end the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if I share the results with you, it's great that no one gave themselves a 1, 2, or 3 at the low end of the spectrum. Looks like the most common score is a 7. No one gave themselves a 10. We have a couple of 9s and 8s. So the majority seems to be in that mid-range, 5, 6, and 7. So that tells me we have some work to do on our self-care. Why do I bring that up? A very good reason, and let me get into that. So when we look at what top leaders need now, I have a very concise formula that I adhere to. And that formula is L equals SO. And what that means is that leadership equals serving oneself. Leadership equals serving oneself. And that is all about you, the leader. Now, like I said, I'm not going to spend any more time talking about those 5 aspects of self-care. What I want to do today is give you 3 tools that you can use to improve your leadership resilience, and you can become a more effective leader. And it all starts with this formula: leadership equals serving oneself. I'm sure every one of you have flown on a commercial airline, and what does the flight attendant always say in the safety talk? Put your mask on first. Why do you have to do that? Because you can't help other people if you don't put your mask on first. So if there's a loss of pressure and loss of oxygen, if you're passed out, it makes it hard to help anybody else, right? And that goes along with a model of leadership, the hierarchy of leadership, which I created several years ago, which has 3 levels of leadership. It has, at the base of the pyramid is the concept of intrapersonal leadership. In the middle is interpersonal leadership, the leadership of others. And at the top is organizational leadership, the leadership of the organization. And intrapersonal leadership is what I want to focus on today, because that creates the foundation, your foundation of how you act and work as a leader, because it's all about you. And if you move up the pyramid and try to take care of others when you're not taking care of yourself, well, at a minimum, it's going to create a lot of stress. But if you don't have a solid foundation, the building can come tumbling down, and we don't want that. So it is so important to have a solid foundation of your leadership skill set, and it all begins with you. So Simon Sinek has an awesome TED Talk. If you've never seen it, you can Google it and you can find it. And he talks about, what is your why? What is your purpose? What causes you to get out of bed in the morning when you may not really feel like it? Why do you work on weekends, on holidays, nights? Why do you put in 16-hour days to finish the budget? Another way of looking at this is, why are you resilient? Why are you resilient? If you know the answer to that question, that can help you with your resilience and help you be a more effective leader. So to do that, one of the things we need to do is look in the mirror and look at the image we see looking back at us. Because the key to this conversation I'm having with you today is that you, as a leader, if you want to be more resilient, you need to take time to focus on you. The leadership of self, interpersonal leadership, is all about you, and that's okay. You need to take time to focus on you. And ask yourself, are you a resilient leader? Because oftentimes the reflection that we see in the mirror looking back at us is significantly different than us. It's significantly different than the way other people see us. And the more we can be in alignment with the reflection of us and the real us, the more resilient we can be, the more effective we can be. So are you the leader you want to be? Are you a resilient leader? Or what kind of leader do you want to be? And how do you want to be remembered? Some important questions to stop and ask yourself as we take a moment to focus on ourselves as leaders. So, what do top leaders need now? You need to take a few minutes of your day and think about, what are your core values. Your core values are a key component of how you lead, and your core values are developed by the people that you meet and engage with. It's the beliefs that you hold to be true and the experiences that you have in life. They all influence the core values that you embrace. So, what are your core values? Well, here's my first free tool for you. Well, it's essentially free anyway, on how you can be a more resilient leader. What do you need? A piece of paper and a pencil or pen. And all you have to do is take a blank piece of paper and create 4 columns. And on the left side of the paper, you create a column of your core values. The next column would be the person's beliefs and experiences that you've had that have caused you to adapt that core value. Column number 3 is, how important is that core value, and rating it on a scale of 1 to 10. And then the fourth and final column on the right is walk the talk. How are you doing living that core value? And give yourself a score of 1 to 10. So let me give you an example of this. For me, one of my core values is honesty. I think that's an important core value to have. And I was influenced by a person named Abraham Lincoln. Or as a boy growing up in the land of Lincoln, the state of Illinois, I cherished the stories about Honest Abe, and how he would walk miles to return the change of a person who, and is only a penny. Even though I've never met Abraham Lincoln, I give him credit for instilling in me the core value of honesty. And how important do I think honesty is? Well, here I give it a 10. I think it's highly important. And do I walk the talk? I don't know, maybe I'm giving myself an inflated score at 9, but I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job there. There's not much of a gap. Another core value of mine, it's a little bit more interesting, is the platinum rule. Now, a few years ago, instead of the platinum rule here, I would have had the golden rule. And the golden rule comes from my Christian faith and the scripture that says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In other words, you treat other people the way you would want to be treated, right? And Christianity doesn't have a monopoly on this concept. Most major religions have a similar rule or guideline or philosophy, if you will. But when I met Marshall Goldsmith, and if you don't know who Marshall Goldsmith is, I suggest when this webinar is over, Google him. He's one of the top people in the world, considered one of the top thinkers on leadership in the world. And if you Google him, you'll find out all kinds of interesting things. I've had the pleasure to meet Marshall when I was working on my doctorate in leadership. And I've worked with him since. In fact, he and his team trained me on how to be an executive coach, and I use his concepts in the stakeholder-centered coaching that I do. But Marshall said, People may not want to be treated like you. So why do you want to do that to them? And when you think about it, everybody that's on this call, on this webinar here today, I can almost guarantee you that there's other people in your organizations who could be on this call, but aren't. Now, that shows you right there that there's a difference between you and other people. Doesn't mean one person's right or wrong. There's no right or wrong to whether you're on this webinar or not, but it does tell you that people are different. So why in the world would you want to treat people the same way you want to be treated when they're so different than you? So what Marshall says is you should use the platinum rule, which means you treat people the way they want to be treated. And I think that makes a lot of sense. So I've embraced the platinum rule as one of my core values, but it's kind of a hybrid of my Christian belief and a person, Marshall Goldsmith. I think it's very important, so I give it a score of 10 on the importance scale, and I give myself an 8 for walking the talk on this one. So I've got a little bit of a gap that if I wanted to focus on, I could. So my ask of you is to take this idea, take a blank piece of paper, make these 4 columns, and list out 10 core values, and then look at the people that have caused you to embrace this core value, or the beliefs that you hold to be true, or the experiences that you've had. How important are they? Give them a score. And then, are you walking the talk? How are you doing? And when you do that, you can ask yourself, are they still relevant? Are these core values still relevant? Because like what I shared with you, what I found is that the golden rule wasn't relevant as applied to leadership. And then the other piece of this is, how am I living these core beliefs? If there's some big gaps, you've got some work to do, because you probably got some stress in your life because you're not living in alignment with your core values. And if you're not living in alignment with your core values, it's going to be pretty difficult to be a resilient leader. And so you can identify those gaps and work on reducing those gaps, or enhance the minimal gaps that you have as well. So that's my first tool for you. Now here's my second tool that I want to give you. And guess what? It costs the same as the other tool, because it's a piece of paper and a pen and pencil too. But this time you only need 3 columns. In the left-hand column, you put down a recent success that you've experienced. In the middle column, why was it a success? And in the right-hand column, who were the people that helped make this a success? So for me, in February, I was a big part of launching the Rural Hospital CEO certification program. In fact, I think some of the participants in the program are on this call today. And it's been very successful. We had over 180 applications for 24 slots. And based on the feedback we've received by the participants so far, it's being very successful, providing great value to them. Why has it been successful? Because it filled a need. It filled a desire for rural hospital specific education and training. So much so that we're actually talking about making other position specific certifications because there is such a need there. Now I could fill up my computer screen with people's names who helped make this happen, because it certainly wasn't just me, but the ones I chose to put down today are Larry, Brock, Terry, and the cohort, the members that are participating in the CEO certification. Another recent success I had is a team coaching engagement that I had at a critical access hospital in Indiana that just ended. And it made a huge difference with the people that I was working with in that hospital, particularly during the pandemic. And the people that made it such a success were the people that participated in the program. And you can go on and list other successes that you've had here. But the key thing is you write down the success, why it was a success, and then the people that were part of that success, because you need people to be successful. You can't do it alone. And so then once you do that, ask yourself, have I been grateful? And I would guess that, yes, everybody is grateful for the success they had and the people that have helped them with that success. The big question here is, have you demonstrated your gratitude to those people? Have you let them know how grateful you are? And during a period of difficulty, whether it's a pandemic or other tough times that we encounter, the more you demonstrate that gratitude of the work that people are doing to help things move forward and be successful, the greater resilience you'll be demonstrating as a leader. So what do top leaders need now? Well, I go back to my old formula, L equals SO, leadership equals serving oneself. And it is so important to take the time to focus on you. It's okay to focus on you. I know a lot of people that I talk to, especially in healthcare, especially rural healthcare, embrace the concept of servant leadership, where it's all about serving others. And leadership is about serving others. But again, if you don't put your oxygen mask on first, you can't help other people. Now, another thing that what top leaders need now is an executive coach. Now, I know I'm biased about executive coaching, but what I find is a lot of people don't realize what an executive coach does, let alone the value that they bring. And so I looked up several studies that have been done on executive coaching and the benefits of executive coaching. Of course, if you're working with an executive coach, your people, dealing with people is so much better. Relationships are better, goal setting's better, prioritizing goals are better, engagement is enhanced, productivity is enhanced. You can see yourself more clearly, you can see others more clearly. But when I look at studies, I like to look at numbers, okay? And there was one study that I looked at, and what they looked at is how executives and who worked with executive coaches, how their leadership skills improved overall. And what they found is that leadership skills improved anywhere from 55 to 60% when executives worked with an executive coach. 55 to 60%, that's rather significant, isn't it? And then another study looked at productivity. And what they did is they divided groups of executives up into three groups. One group didn't get any training or coaching. Another group received leadership training in I think it was a 3-day workshop. And then the third group worked with an executive coach over a period of time. So as you might imagine, the executives that didn't work with anybody or get any training, their productivity didn't change. The ones who went to the brief workshop, their productivity increased to the tune of like 22%. But the executives that worked with an executive coach, their productivity increased 88%. That's rather significant, isn't it? And then another study looked at return on investment. They looked at how much they spent for executive coaching, and then the value that they received from that, they put a price tag on it. And what they found is they found a return on investment of 529%. And then when they added in the financial benefits of reducing of employee retention, it went up to 788%. Now, those are kind of some staggering numbers, aren't they? But one other study I want to share with you, and this was done by Better Up, an executive coaching think tank based in Silicon Valley. And what they did is they looked only a 2-month period during the pandemic. They looked at executives who worked with executive coaches and executives who did not work with executive coaches. And remember, this is only 2 months of data. Leadership resilience increased 17% over that 2-month period during a crisis. So executive coaching, when done properly, can add great value, and it can increase your leadership resilience. So what do top leaders need now? Well, they need to focus on themselves first. They need to take the time. You need to take the time to focus on you. And that's okay. It's called interpersonal leadership, the leadership of self. And when you look at interpersonal leadership, looking at your core values, what they are, who the people are that influence you, what the beliefs that you have, how they influenced it, the experiences that you've had, how they influenced it, are they still relevant? And are you walking the talk? And then being grateful with gratitude. I feel like everybody here is grateful for those who help them. But are you demonstrating gratitude to all the people that are helping make you successful? And consider working with an executive coach. To be more, here's my third and last free tool for you. If you have a smartphone, go to the App Store. Under the search function, look up Marshall Goldsmith Coaching. And he has a free app as well as one that you pay for. I have the free app, and once a week, Marshall comes up with 3 nuggets, 3 leadership nuggets for you so you can be coached virtually by one of the top leadership coaches in the world. So that's my last freebie for you. You know, it's important to carve out time some me time for you to be a more resilient leader, a more effective leader. And so my question to you is, are you the leader you want to be? I'd like to encourage you to be the leader you want to be and to be the resilient leader you want to be, because being a resilient leader is more than just settling for the idea that everything's going to be okay. A resilient leader makes the new normal better than the old normal, and that's what we want to achieve. So that's the end of my presentation. Elise, does anybody have any questions?
So far, no. So let's ask for them. Does anybody have any questions?
Bill, this is Dennis Shelby.
Hey, Dennis.
How you doing today?
Okay, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
You bet. Sorry, I was a little late because I was getting out of a COVID-19 meeting.
Oh, no. Okay.
Anyway, as far as selecting a coach, I know that coaching can be done via Zoom, where you can have a group, and it's a lot less expensive. And so, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it depends on what's right for you. And if you're wanting to do it in a group setting or a team setting, all those options are on the table. And you're right, the one-on-one executive coaching is a bigger investment than doing it as a team or a group sort of thing. And so the key is figuring out what you need and who the coach is. Does the coach work and have a philosophy that's in alignment with you? It's hard to maybe examine what their core values are, but if you look at that, that's a great way to do it. But they all work well. You can definitely drill down and get in the weeds more when you do it one-on-one. But I've done a lot of team coaching myself, so has Elise, and so have other members of our coaching team. So they all work. Depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think one model that works, I do some life coaching, and
okay.
And having check-ins, so you could do it as a group, but the initial session needs to be individualized, and
Yes.
then you have individual check-ins every so often. But so that's one idea.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? Thanks, Dennis. Well, the one thing that, as Dennis was talking about, what works best for coaching, the individual coaching or the team coaching or group coaching. One of the things that we've done with my team of coaches is that we've agreed as in return to all the hard work that you as rural health leaders are doing, we are offering free coaching, so you can give it a try. If you've never used a coach before, we're all available to help you. All you have to do is schedule a coaching call, and to do that, you can go to billauxier.com/coaching. And what we're offering are 3 30-minute coaching sessions that you can use. We've had several people from previous webinars take advantage of that. So I welcome all of you, even those. I know that there's some former or current clients of ours here watching, but everybody's more than welcome to take advantage of these free coaching sessions. So I just saw the chat light flinking. Looks like I don't see any other questions. We did record this session, so we will make it available. So if you registered, we do have your email address, and we will be sending it out so that you can view it later or even share it with friends. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.